Hello everyone, can we all hear me? Good afternoon. Hello everyone, can we all hear me? Hello, can we all hear me? Please, can someone confirm that they can hear me? Okay.
Can hear you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ekene. Please, I would just like to kindly request before we start today's session that we try to reach out to as many mentees that we can reach out to notify them that class is starting right about now, so that we can have them come on board and participate, into this class. So please, you can drop a message in your subgroup so that we can have other people aware of the fact that we are starting class right about now. All right, so we'll be starting shortly. Just kindly give me a minute. All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first class for the JIIPCC Mentorship and Internship program under the Artificial Intelligence and Emerging Technology class. You're welcome to today's session. We'll be kicking off with our first topic for the week, which is our first topic for the class, which is ethics. Sorry, I'm coming, which is Introduction to AI Ethics and Emerging Technologies. Right, that is what we'll be handling and dealing with in today's class. And I'm sure you guys have made your research. You are aware of a thing or two about the presentation, about what we are going to be discussing in today's session. And we have sent out your presentation to the mentors. So hopefully when they come on board, they'll be able to do due justice to the subject matter of today. Not to waste any time, my name is Dennis Williams, and I'll be helping with, or I would rather be moderating today's session. So just to quickly, as a matter of practice, we would like to introduce the mentors that we would be having in each session, right? So I'll be going on first to read their profile and just give a brief introduction into them. So our first mentor for today is going to be Mr. Ridwan Badmos. Mr. Ridwan Badmos is a tech lawyer, multidisciplinary privacy professional, and CTO. His expertise expands across various specialized technology law domains, encompassing artificial intelligence, blockchain, cloud computing, and other cutting-edge technologies. Being a certified information privacy technologist with the IAPP and the Esteem One Trust Fellow of Privacy Technology, Ridwan is at the forefront of translating privacy regulations into functional applications that handle user data, a significant void he diligently fills rather. Furthermore, his unique position in working across numerous complex projects bridges the gap between legal and technical teams, thereby harmonizing two distinct domains in this expansive technology landscape. Grade 1 adults for the effective implementation of privacy and security best practices is evident in its active involvement in shaping industry standards set forth by eminent organizations such as the National Institute of Standards and Technology and the Cloud Security Alliance and the Center of Internet Security. So Mr. Ridwan is going to be our first mentor for today. We expect to have him in session today. Our second mentor for today that we expect in today's session is Barrister Buki Ogusakin. Barrister Buki is the principal and head associate at BBO Solicitors. She is an emerging tech lawyer, primarily focused with clients in the emerging technology areas such as NFTs, metaverse, crypto, blockchain, AI, as well as cybersecurity and data privacy. Buki is highly sought after by our clients due to her 17 years plus years additional experience in strategy and project management. Buki is also currently a consultant with Interstellar Inc. and the Lagos Business School, and volunteers as a director of strategy at E4E. She is a smart contracts research fellow and a Kleros Decentralized Justice Fellow. She is also a certified NFT expert from the Blockchain Council, a certified international privacy professional, and a member of the Nigerian Bar Association and the International Association of Privacy Professionals. So we want to thank Ms. Buki in advance for her contribution to the AI space, and we look forward to having her in today's session. Okay, we've read Mr. Ridwan's profile. Thirdly, we'll be having Mr. Akin Agumbiade. Sorry if my pronunciation is off tune. Mr. Akintunde is a Nigerian lawyer specialized in technology law, AI policy, and data governance, with over 6 years experience advising governments and companies on the ethics and regulatory dimensions of emerging technologies. He is currently an associate at Aluko and Waybody and previously worked at AELEX. He also served as chief researcher and policy officer at Afric AI Lab, leading initiatives on AI ethics, governance, and capacity building across the continent. Akintunde has delivered talks and workshops on AI ethics for law students, policymakers, and professional networks. He served on the 2023 committee tasked with drafting an early version of the Nigeria's national AI policy. He is a former two-time responsible AI fellow with the CITSOM Center, where his research covered themes like the impact of AI on SDGs in Nigeria. Its uses for domestic surveillance in Nigeria and its impact on election and democracy across several global South countries during the 2024 wave of elections. He has contributed to position papers and panels of WIPO and EPO on the impacts of generative AI and copyright laws and patent administration in selective African countries. His academic interest includes AI and national security, data governance, generative AI adoption, AI in democracy and human rights, and the interplay between law, ethics, and innovation. He is also a host of a podcast, Blockbuster, and algorithm. He's also the host of the podcast, Blockbusters and Algorithms, where he explains technical AI terminologies, ethics, and legal issues through sci-fi movies. Thank you, Mr. Akintunde. I can see he's already on the call. You are very, very much welcome to class, sir. We are happy to have you with us. And last but not least, of the mentors that we expect in today's session is Mr. Philip Rogers. Mr. Philip Rogers is a legal professional with expertise in corporate startups and immigration law. He specializes in contract management, corporate governance, and regulatory compliance, and currently serves as a foreign legal consultant with a US-based law firm. As the founder of Evercore Solution, Rogers supports startups by establishing strong legal frameworks, securing funding, and leveraging technologies to drive growth. He focused on legal technology and artificial intelligence, enables him to provide innovative solution that simplifies operation and empowers business to thrive. With a strong background in advising executives and founders on drafting startup agreements and developing strategies for scaling business, Roger delivers legal practical insights that foster sustainable growth and long-term success. We want to say a big thank you and a big welcome to all our mentors that will be joining us in today's session. We do look forward to having a very, very interesting discourse in today's class. So not to waste any further time, I'll just be giving us a brief agenda of how things are going to be going in this session. Seeing that we already have a few mentors on call, we'll be having the mentors who are already here to give a brief 20 to 25 minutes introduction into the topic of today, And after that, we will subsequently move to presentations from the mentees, the work you people have done over the course of the week. You people will be presenting on it. So the group presenter should, for group one and group two, should please get ready with your presentation to share with us during class. Presentation time is scheduled for 10 minutes. So please try as much as possible while making presentation to stay within the time frame allocated to you. And then thirdly, we'll be moving on to feedback from the mentors. Everything that you have done and said during your presentation will be highlighted on by the mentors, and they'll be giving a feedback to your work. And then we'll take questions. We'll have a question and answer segment where we'll get to ask our mentors or the mentors questions if there are any areas where you would need some kind of clarity with. And then we'll call it a day in class. So not to further waste any time, saying that we have Mr. Akintunde with us. So we would like to call on you to help just help us with an introduction into the subject matter for today, based off on what you have prepared for us for today's class. You're welcome to the session, Mr. Akintunde. The floor is yours. You have 25 minutes for your introduction into today's topic.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And if you permit me, I will try to share my screen now. So please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can, sir.
Okay, so thank you. So I would call an intro to AI ethics. So I joined while you were going through my profile. So I'm a tech lawyer. I work with Fema Local and everybody. I have been involved in policy drafting with the government and other private companies, and also a host of the podcast where I discuss AI through movies. So, intro to AI ethics. Let's get into it quickly. The first thing is, what is AI? So, you're probably familiar with this. AI refers to a technology that can simulate or replicate human conditions like learning, problem solving, decision making, and it involves what's the word now? There are different categories to AI: narrow AI, general AI, which some of us are very familiar with. So narrow AI, for instance, it was already in the mainstream, like AI technologies like image recognition. So take for instance now some of you who use Android phones, probably you know the app Google Lens. So if you take a picture in your phone and you put it in Google Lens can recognize what is in that picture or help you to like maybe go online search for that, and that's image recognition in practice. Or for instance, now your email app, once emails come into your phone, a Gmail or whichever app you use categorizes them into like spam, promotions, updates, social. That classification of emails according to the content is a function of AI. So those things are like narrow functions of AI. General forms of AI, we are still more or less towards getting there, probably through maybe like agentic AI, which is like the next step where AI tools are able to independently carry out a wide range of functions with limited or no human intervention or supervision. Um, and we see this AI apps in everyday of our life. Many of us cannot go a day without using ChatGPT or its other competitors like Gemini or Perplexity or DeepSeek or autonomous vehicle. We may not really have them here, but many of us already interact with facial recognition systems. So if you are probably using any of these financial apps, let's say you use OPay now, there's some times where maybe you want to carry out a transaction with your OPay app and you need to do some facial verification. So that itself is an AI application to confirm that you are the one who wants to carry out this transaction. The next is, how does AI work? So at fundamentally, AI relies on data, personal and non-personal data, to which is used to train algorithms to create models that can then carry out tasks that normally require human intelligence. So just to clarify this, because many people make this mistake, there's a difference between an algorithm and a model, and I'll explain. An algorithm is what you provide data to train. The outcome of training an algorithm is a model. So what any AI tool that you're already interacting with is the model. So your Spotify app that can, like the DJ, if you use Spotify, the AI DJ in Spotify that it just recommends music for you to listen to, that is an AI model. The email examples I gave earlier, that's an AI model. It's already been trained. So it doesn't mean that a model cannot still interact with new data and learn new things and be retrained. Yes, but it's more or less we can also like say the finished product in quotes is a model. While if it is still being developed in the lab or in the research institute, it's an algorithm. So machine AI systems learn through machine learning to identify patterns in data. So there are different ways this works, either through supervised learning, where the data is tagged with different categories, and then it learns to identify anything that looks like that. So, for example, if you have an AI model that is trained to identify, let me use emails again. It's trained to identify, what's the word now? Emails that might be spam, that might be promotional. So you give it a bunch of emails and like train somebody, let's say 1,000 email samples, and when you tag some of them, okay, these are emails that are spam, either emails from fraudsters or emails trying to sell some services, emails from your Instagram, from your Twitter, tag them as social, emails from maybe internship that you've applied for or job offers that you are looking for, tag them as normal or primary emails, and then give it to this model, train it on that. So that anytime any new email comes in, it can then classify them based on those categories that it was trained on. That's supervised learning. You tag the data according to what it is, and then when you train the algorithm with that, it can then identify new data inputs in line with those categories. It is unsupervised learning. You don't give the data, you don't give the algorithm any, you don't tag the data. You just throw the data at it. And then it learns by itself to categorize them into different categories. So this you usually find this in tools that in recommendation tools like Spotify, like Netflix, like YouTube. If you use YouTube Music or like the YouTube apps, watch videos, then we usually find the unsupervised model, unsupervised algorithms. Reinforcement learning, federated learning. These are other examples of machine learning. So a software of machine learning is deep learning. Now, deep learning simulates, when I say simulate, or it's kind of modeled after how the human brain works, the neural patterns in the human brain to enable pattern recognition but at a more complex level. But the challenge with it is that unlike the human brain, we do not really understand how it is able to take input to then deliver output. So this is called the black box challenge in AI because we don't really understand what goes on underneath the hood for it to achieve its outcomes. Then let's look at the pillars of ethical AI. So there are five core principles to achieving ethical AI. First is fairness. This is that AI systems must treat everybody individually and as a group equitably. So this goes to the issue of bias, which many of you might have probably heard of, there to the effect that AI systems should ensure that developers of AI systems, deployers of AI systems, and even providers of AI systems must ensure that their AI tools that they put to markets are able to effectively treat different groups in an equitable fashion. So take for instance now, let's say we have during the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a tool that was released in the UK for detecting COVID-19. And it was found that it was less effective for Black people compared to white people. Why? Because the data upon which it was trained did not have enough samples of African data. And it's a global challenge. For all LLMs, ChatGPT, Gemini, the data that they are trained on only has 2% African representation. So whatever output they are giving you, even though all of us find them really effective, it could be a whole lot more effective if there was greater African representation in data sets tools that are trained on. So this is why fairness is an AI, the pillar of school AI. Accountability, establishing clear responsibility for AI action and decisions. So the point, this as a follow-on to fairness. So if we are saying that AI tools must be fair, if they are not fair, who do we hold responsible? Do we hold the developer, the deployer, the the provider of the underlying system? So this is where accountability comes in. We must ensure that where AI systems go rogue or did not or deliver unacceptable outcomes, there is a clear party who can be held responsible for this. Next is transparency, promoting the understandability of AI processing and reasoning. I said earlier that one of the challenges we have with deep learning is the black box nature, that you don't really know what happens underneath it. But this is something that regulations are trying to ensure that developers, to a large degree, try to explain how their AI systems, at least to a broad degree, achieve the outcome. So you see projects like this in the EU AI Act, even in Nigeria's guide, which is a successor regulation to the NDPA, showing that developers are mandated to explain how the AI tools they use or deploy work. Privacy, protecting personal data and information within AI systems. I said earlier that AI systems are trained on personal and non-personal data. So if your system either interacts or is trained on data, trained on personal data, you have to ensure you put in place certain technical and organizational measures, TOMs, that I refer to in the entrance law, to ensure that your data systems are secure and they are free from, or at least not, that's not 100%, you can't take 100% guarantees, but ensure that they are 100 to a good degree secure from any form of breach. Then human autonomy. This is the idea that at every stage, there should be a human who can intervene in the outcomes of an AI system. And if there's no human intervention, then human cannot intervene, at least there should be human redress or human recourse where an AI system delivers subpar or unethical outcomes. So take for instance now, let me use it like a simple example now. Going back to Spotify. If you use Spotify, you know the AI DJ. If the AI DJ is playing music that you don't like, there's a button that you can press and then it will then reset. So that in itself is like a simple example of human in the loop or human intervention that allows you to control or override what the AI tool they're doing to choose music for you. So this is a principle that should be scaled. And this is like Spotify does not have there's no real world implication. If the AI DJ is playing music you don't like, it doesn't really affect your life. Okay, you won't like the music, but you can just leave Spotify and just do something else. But this is the principle that is scaled not just for like simple app like Spotify, but up to the highest levels. Going back to your email, if your email app categorizes an email like that should have gone to primary to spam, you can go there and like, okay, this email should not have been spam, and then it corrects it and puts the email where it should be. That's an example of human intervention. So every AI tool is expected to have a feature that ensures that humans always have a degree of control or a degree of redress or measure when the outcomes of those AI tools are not palatable. Next is now real world AI dilemma. Let's go crossroads. So the first one, they are way more than this, but they're just three popular examples that I will just discuss. First is bias facial recognition. This is where AI algorithms perpetrate racial or gender biases or even biases as regards human form that lead to incorrect identifications. So I would give an example going back to OPE again. There's a video I saw, what's the word? I think it was in June or July, I'm not sure right now, June or July. It probably it was trending on social media for a while, where there was a guy who was trying to verify the identity, like maybe trying to use OPay to carry out a transaction. And what happened was that that if you use OPay, it will ask you to like show your face to the camera so it can identify you. Now this guy had an issue. Half he was visually impaired in one eye. So only one eye was open for him. And the app kept telling him to open his eyes. And biologically he couldn't do that. So because of that, he couldn't use the app. So this in itself is a form of bias where designers or the developers of AI systems do not consider the fact that if you're doing beautiful facial recognition, there are some people who will have some kind of facial impairment that makes facial recognition tools impossible or difficult for them to use. In this man's case, he was half blind. In some cases, it can be that the person has, let's say, some kind of maybe the person has vitiligo or person has albinism, which gives their skin a completely different skin tone. So the AI system might interpret their skin tone as being maybe please move to somewhere that does not have too much light. But this is my skin. I can't change. I'm not going to paint myself a different skin tone. So these are issues in AI bias or AI system that probably cannot even identify women or even identify Black people because they are not trained on data set that reflect these people. So these are different groups where either you're talking about people with visual impairment or people with skin conditions or people or African skin or darker skin people or women who are not represented adequately in facial recognition databases, which results in those tools when they're deployed in the real world, not being able to identify them. Next is predictive policing. This is where we have AI tools that are used to surveil or to track people. And we already have these things happening. They might not be aware, but you already have the government agencies like the DSS and the NIA that use AI for surveillance. So targeted surveillance at the moment, not nationwide, but they're already working towards deploying a new system called MTRACON, that's MTRACON, which will give the intelligence agency the capacity to surveil on a nationwide level. Like the reason, like, is to curb insurgency, banditry, kidnapping, and all of that. But it also means that even people who are not insurgents, everyday people will then be easily tracked by Nigerian security agencies. And unfortunately, under Nigeria's laws, they can rely on exemptions like public international security, so they don't need to do the normal checks that people who deploy themselves have to do, like conducting the DPIAs or proportionality assessments. Next is deepfake misinformation. This is where AI-generated media is used to either create convincing but false content that impacts people's reputations, elections, and even public trust. And we've seen examples like this in different parts of the world, not just in Nigeria, in Senegal, in India, even in Indonesia last year, where one of their late, like a late politician, and a deepfake video of him was created to like whip up sentiment to get people to vote. We've seen in Senegal had elections last year where like a deep fake video of a prominent popular politician in Senegal was was edited to make him say things condemning France. Now, if you are familiar with Francophone country, there's a lot of anti-French sentiments in French-speaking countries in Africa. So although yes, there already sentiments against France, but this was a deep fake video of him saying things to condemning France to like whip up that already existing bias against France to get people to vote. So we are likely going to see more and more of this in future election cycles where people use AI to generate content to either to whip up ethnic sentiment, religious sentiment, political sentiments that might have negative outcomes. The next thing is navigating the legal landscape now. So the advent of these AI tools demands that we find new ways to interpret existing laws or consider developing a completely new legal framework. So, for instance, now AI liability. who do we hold responsible when AI makes a harmful decision? So, for instance, now, if a hospital uses an AI medical device and it delivers and is not able to either properly test or misdiagnose, who should be held responsible? Should we hold the hospital responsible? Should we hold the deployer of the AI system, or the developer of the AI system, responsible for that scenario? Who should we hold responsible? And data protection. So how do we ensure that the data that is used to train or retrain these models is well preserved, is well protected, and is not shared or used for other purposes beyond what it's supposed to be used for? Then IP rights. So where you are using, for instance, where LLMs are being trained on proprietary information, copyrighted information, patented information. How do you ensure that the creators of this information receive what's the word now? Either receive the recognition or at least compensation. Many of you are aware that probably aware that several companies like the New York Times have sued OpenAI for using their data to train their models. And the argument that these companies gave is that there are many of them try to rely on is that training their AI models on information from the New York Times or any other public source is like anybody reading anybody reading the articles and then going on to like summarize or condense information in a new form. That's the major argument they try to use, but it's still a developing matter in several courts, so it's not yet fully settled. Then algorithm transparency, which is the idea that we should have explainability as to how AI systems achieve the decisions that they provide. Then governance of AI. So there are different regulations at the international level and even at the regional level to regulate how AI is deployed. So you're familiar with the EU AI Act, which is brought up by the EU, which is a risk-based framework that tries to categorize the systems according to their risk levels and then introduces obligations at those risk levels. Then we have OECD principles, which are non-binding but kind of a voluntary tool that people can use to ensure that their AI systems are trustworthy and ethical. Then there's the UNESCO AI guidelines, which offers recommendations for building an ethical AI. For instance, now it proposes that countries or member states should introduce EIAs, that is ethical impact assessments, which would require that anybody who is deploying AI within your country does an EIA, which would disclose the risk of their AI systems and the mitigation measures they are put in place to mitigate those risks. So if Nigeria were to implement this, it will involve introducing a law to this effect. Even within the African continent, we also have our own local, international, local, regional rules. For instance, there's the EU Data Policy Framework 2020, I think it's 2021 or 2022, which encourages governments to set up data analytic capabilities. And the idea behind this is that for because of our level of development in Africa, a lot of the data that we can use to build locally relevant data sets is held by the government. The biggest collector, the largest repository of data for most African countries is with the government institutions, government databases, not the private sector. And in other parts of the world, like let's say even the USA, probably the largest holders of data are probably the private sector. They're followed by the government. For us in Africa, it's mostly the government. So the responsibility to ensure that developers are able to access adequate African data sets largely falls with the government, ensuring that they digitalize their data sets and make them openly accessible so that anyone who wants to build data sets, who wants to build tools that Africans will use, both local players and international players, there's one to make sure it's on the government to ensure that their data is openly accessible. So another thing is also the AU AI strategy, which is like which is a lot which aims to encourage African governments to put in place policies that encourage AI adoption and innovation. So, for instance, now it encourages the creation of specialized AI clusters. So these clusters are supposed to concentrate resources so that anyone who is in a particular AI sector can go there. Think of it like a something like a free trade zone, something like that, a free trade zone or specialized economic zone, but for AI, where anybody can just go there and all the resources that you need for maybe data centers are there, full 24/7 electricity and everything to deploy or develop AI systems at scale. It also encourages the idea of an AI competition where the cash price can be something between, let's say, like 100,000 USD to like, I think like 10 or 12 million USD for to be an annual AI challenge where across the continents people submit their pitches and then the most successful pitch then gets that prize. And as a way of like encouraging AI innovation within the continents. So coming home to Nigeria's AI landscape. So we do not have an AI law in Nigeria per se, but we have, let's say, sector-specific laws that have implications for AI regulation. Most prominent one is the NDPA, which is the foundational law for AI data privacy, and upon which other regulations have come out. So like for instance, we have the GATE, that is the General Application and Implementation Directive, which comes into force September 19th this month, which has provisions, for instance, that it says that if you are deploying AI, you must conduct a DPIA, that's Data Protection Impact Assessment, where you will disclose, for instance, the necessity of using AI for data processing. Is it proportionate to the risks that you are exposing data subjects to? And what are your risk mitigation measures? Even outside data protection, for instance, now, NAFDAC has regulations on use of medical devices, requiring that medical devices are defined to include even digital tools, like if you're using an AI-enabled medical device, so you must register that tool with NAFDAC. If you are using a generative AI in, let's say, to develop copy or to develop images for your advertising for advertisements now, you have to get those advertisements vetted by Arcon. So in that way, Arcon can intervene for AI in advertising. Or let's say you are using AI to develop your branding material. You have to ensure that you do not put out branding material that misrepresents what the actual product or service is. This is pursuant to the FCCPA, Nigeria's primary consumer protection law. So the the approach in Nigeria really it involves ethical pluralism, where we try to balance global principles with local values. So where we try to ensure that principles like what the UNESCO or the OECD are putting out are reflected in our own local rules, but while also factoring our own communal values in Nigeria and our own local diversities. Now, the challenge really is then ensuring that we effectively enforce these things against the backdrop of, would I say, widespread technological illiteracy, and also ensuring that we secure funding for local AI development and regulation. Then, to close this, let's just consider what I did. So many of you are probably going to say, okay, you want to get to this space. How can you get to this space? So there are different ways you could get into it and different roles you could aspire to. For instance, now, you could either work with AI startups. Now, there are many AI startups, both home and abroad, who will need people with a legal background to advise them on how to comply with existing regulations. So this is a role that you could consider. Then ethical roles. So many companies have a role called either a chief AI ethics officer or responsible AI officer, where your role basically to ensure that the company complies with the ethical AI guidelines within the industry they are playing in or the sector they are playing in. Then also there's the DPO, Data Protection Officer, which is mandated for any company that is any company that is a major data processor must have a DPO in Nigeria. So in many other countries, there's always and DPOs, apart from having an understanding of data protection laws, also need to understand AI regulation to a degree. So this is a role that you can also consider. Then also there's also the role of a tech policy advisor, which this mostly works either at the legislative level and mostly at either government levels or even within private companies where you have to interface with government agencies, where you need the role of a government affairs lead or a tech policy lead. So these are some pathways within AI law that you can aspire to. And with that, I come to a close for this. And thanks for giving me the time to talk to you. And if there are any questions, I can take them, or probably after we do the group presentations. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Akintude, for your very detailed and wonderful presentation on the topic for today. Right. I'm sure Mr. Akintude was able to highlight several points that were very essential to the subject matter that we are discussing. And, I'm sure we're able to learn a thing or two from his discussion today. So moving forward, so far, I'm trying to see which other mentor we currently have on call. But I noticed one of the mentors was in and out, right? And I'm not sure if she will be rejoining us soon. So not to waste any time waiting for more mentors to come on board, seeing that we still have Mr. Akintude on the call to still help drive the discussions after presentations are made. We'll be taking presentations now from both groups. After that, we would have him giving some perspective to the presentations, and then subsequently we'll take questions. So please, the group presenter for group one, if you are with us, please do kindly do well to start sharing your slides, introduce yourself, and go ahead and make a presentation on behalf of the group. You have 10 minutes for your presentation. Do we have the group presenter for group one?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Mr. Goswell.
Okay. I would like to. I'll share my screen now. So please, when I do, I will let you know. Just trying to set up.
All right, if you're having issues sharing your slides, I can help you do that. You just give me the go ahead if you need that assistance.
Oh, okay. 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 Just share the slides. Let's do it that way.
All right. So before I do that, go ahead and just start with your introduction. Just introduce yourself and start your introduction.
Okay. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Mr. GGK, and I'm presenting for Group One. And the overview of our discussions this afternoon will be Emerging Technology Overview. Our moderator has told us we have 10 minutes. I'm just trying to see how I can run through this within 10 minutes, but I believe we can do that. So our presentation this afternoon has been made to cover the topics of our discussion today. And we're talking about emerging technologies overview, and inside that we'll be talking about the decentralized finance protocols and applications. We'll also be talking about augmented reality, AR, and visual reality, which is VR, their potential applications and the things about them. We'll move on to understanding blockchain technology and its impact on various aspects various sectors, and we'll talk about investigating NFTs and their role in digital ownership and economy. So there are lots of things to be discussed. So we'll be moving to the first part, which is an introduction to decentralized finance, DeFi, and its protocols. So as we all know, this decentralized finance is something a word today. Everyone talks about them because it is something that it is not centralized as the name implies. It is not controlled by any specific sector. So it's something that we initially before now would think is impossible. But yeah, as the technology is changing the world every day, it becomes possible. So this decentralized finance, as the name implies, is a financial system. And in order for it to work, there needs to be a hub, a center. And that hub is what we call the blockchain technology. And the blockchain technology is primarily built on Ethereum. So this helps us to do a lot of things, a lot of financial activities which you can do in conventional banks, which is we're talking of borrowing, we are talking of lending, we are talking of trading, and even investing money in these things. So we can all do them. And the applications which make this possible is the apps known as decentralized applications, commonly known as the apps. So this helps us not to fully rely on the commercial banks around us. But before we proceed, we would like to talk about the difference between this decentralized finance and decentralized finance. So as I mentioned earlier, the basic difference about them is that in the centralized finance, everything is being controlled. We know ownership, we know people that are in charge of what happens. Meanwhile, when we talk about decentralized finance, they are not controlled. There are no central um, power and authority exercising 100% control on what goes in. So this makes financial transactions way easy and also allows lenders and borrowers to access whatsoever equipment which they need. And talking about the decentralized finance, there are also stable coins, and just like USDT, which serves as foundational coins in order to help these protocols. Because if the finance sector, if any sector we are talking about lacks that stable value, then it's not finance anymore. So all these things makes it easier. So we're moving to the core introduction. After talking about the difference between decentralized finance and centralized finance, we're talking about the introduction of this artificial intelligence into our day-to-day life. So, as we've said earlier, technology has really helped us in different areas, and it's becoming necessary as the day goes by. We're talking of AI, we're talking of blockchains, and it also helps in day-to-day business, health sectors, and all these things helps in delivering efficiencies in our business sectors. But there's a problem, and that problem is it also brings in vulnerability. And what are we talking about when we say these systems are vulnerable? Let's say a central software or a central database that this whole technological empire is built on gets attacked. What do we expect? Everything will shut down. And our article today talks about an example that happened in 2021, a ransom attack on the Colonial Pipeline in the United States, which disrupted fuel supply and caused widespread panic. This single event showed how cyber weakness in one system can affect millions of people. So while this discussion today, we'll be talking about these vulnerabilities and we'll also be talking about some of the benefits. So the next subtopic we are moving to is managing the risks in artificial intelligence. So as we've said, the database can be attacked and a lot of things can happen. And while artificial intelligence is being used in so many important sectors of our day-to-day life, it is very, very important that the risks involved are being managed. Because let's talk about self-driving cars. Today, someone can just enter into his car, start driving, and believe that this car will take them to where they are going. So what if the car while driving gets to meet a stop sign that maybe they've sprayed some colors on it or there are some stickers, and the artificial intelligence in that car cannot really read that stop sign? What do we expect to happen? That's a very serious risk on the person in the car. That those are some of the risks involved. So the AI technology is trying to develop so that we, the users, can fully trust it very much, and we can expect maximum security at every stage of usage. So moving to regulations and ethical concerns. A lot of countries right now are trying to develop regulations for the usage to the usage of this artificial intelligence. But one thing about technology is that technology moves very fast. I believe someone said once that you might say technology cannot do this, but while you're seeing it, a technology that can do it comes up. So while the countries are making regulations, the innovations keeps coming in, and it makes it somewhat really difficult for countries to regulate the technologies and the growth that is happening. So that's one point. And it becomes very, very important too, because these AIs are dealing with a lot of data, a lot of informations in which we freely supply online. But these machines can take these informations and give it to anyone that asks. So it's not just a matter of helping us, but it also talks about invasion of privacy. And these things are happening without even asking for our permission. So it becomes an ethical question too, while we're still talking of regulations on that regard. So talking about the cybersecurity as a path to sustainable innovation. So while we're still talking about importance of cybersecurity and the things they can do for us, it's also sustainability in technology means more than efficiency. It means being able to survive threats and grow. Fintech is a good example. Mobile money systems in Africa have succeeded partly because of the trust built on secure transactions. So where security is weak, people avoid digital systems because of the fear of fraud. This shows that cybersecurity is not just a shield, but also a driver of innovations. So in order for this path to innovation to be upheld, the cybersecurity networks need that confidence to be in place in order to ensure that technologies can expand without constant breakdown. So the next part of our conversation now, we'll be talking about exploring augmented reality, which is AR and visual realities technologies and their potential applications. So these augmented realities and visual realities, they are something that they are very important in our day to day. This is because a lot of industries use them. We use them in communications and we use them in engagements and even work models. A lot of things we do, they are also there. And there are lots of benefits actually. And one of the benefits is that they help us in learning and retention. They help us make decisions through simulations. A lot of things that if we wanted to do manually to take time, these realities technologies can just do it for us on a prompt. But while these benefits are there are still challenges involved. And one of those challenges is high cost of hardware and development. Before you could buy the equipment you need to expose yourself to these technologies, they are really expensive. And high speed networks, privacy and data security, because you can pitch your business models to these technologies hoping for you to get a correction from them whatsoever. And before you see, these technologies, they've absorbed it as their own, and they can even use the models you give to them today to supply information to another person. So popping up privacy issues and data securities are one of the major challenges, even when we are talking about the benefits that can be involved. So if we've talked about the benefits and the challenges, how about the future and the growth of this AR and VR? So while the benefits keeps growing, and one thing about technology is why there is an error here, a new technology will come up to cover that error. in order to build something more sustainable and something more effective. So it gives us the hope that the augmented reality and the visual reality will always get better. And as time goes by, to be adopted into our remote work, our telemedicine, global collaborations, and every other thing, technology will be incorporated in them. So understanding the blockchain technology. So when we are talking of this blockchain technology, what is really blockchain technology? So blockchain technology is a distributed ledger technology that records transactions against across digital and decentralized network of computers in a way that ensures transparency and immutability and security. So what this means is that the blockchain just serves like an e-ledger, something that transactions that happen, and you can remember our conventional bank apps where we can't really delete transactions that have already occurred. It's just there to show that transactions can really go on, and this helps to really serve the functions of the conventional banks, but it helps eliminate that control, and by that we can do peer-to-peer transactions. It reduces costs, it saves stress because we are dealing with technologies, and this really helps these areas of cryptocurrencies to diverse into different sectors, because a lot of persons are welcoming these developments. And talking about the way they are welcoming it, we'll talk about the impact across sectors, and there are different impacts actually. We're talking about the finance sectors. A lot of persons really want to deal on cryptocurrencies now, because you can really convert from any currency and transfer to anyone with seamless stress. And another one, we are talking of supply chain and trade. So it's really easy to transport a lot of things, handle a lot of business transactions with blockchain technologies. And the next one, we're talking of healthcare. While we're talking of healthcare, we can ask, how does blockchain help? It helps in a very important way, because patient record allow the authorities, the professionals, authorized professionals to deal with those records. And this can also prevent fraud in pharmaceutical industries by authenticating drugs and vaccines. So we can see that the scope of this blockchain technology is so widespread that it touches almost every aspect of our day-to-day lives. But as we always say, there are always challenges and to these things. So we'll talk about the challenges and the legal concerns, which almost wants to take us to the end of our discussion. That why it's very important, why we are seeing these benefits. One of the challenges that we can meet, as we've talked about, is regulatory uncertainty, because this technologies keeps growing and keeps evolving. Even 2 years ago, what we can do today with our technologies, we did not believe we can do it. So since when it keeps growing, the laws of the nation does not really grow that much. So because before there will be a regulation to guide it, the technology must have done a damage. So the regulation will be there to correct the damage. That's one of the challenges. Then the second one is scalability and energy use. As we can say, these technologies, they require a lot of energy, and in order for a lot of persons using a remote environment to have access, it brings a very serious concern. Then we've talked about data privacy, um, the informations given to these machines, how do they use it? And the next one is the cybersecurity risks. So those are some of the challenges in which we're talking, in which we can find in these blockchain technologies. Then investigating NFTs and their role in digital ownership and the economy. So NFTs are non-fungible tokens. They are unique digital assets recorded in blockchain that serve as proof of ownership for digital items, similar to certificate of authentication for digital art and collectibles, or even visual re- um, real estate. So what are we saying? that NFTs are just like ownerships of digital art, digital collectibles, or even virtual real estate. So it's just like for our car, we have documents showing that this is then we are the ones that own it, and that's how NFTs are to those digital acts. They are the ownership, so that when we create an act or create a digital act here, we can always have those NFTs to prove that yes, we are the owner of this. And the NFTs are one of a kind, representing ownership of a particular item and providing a transparent, tamper-proof record of its authenticity and ownership. So this helps when there is a transfer of ownership on these NFT networks. Those transfers will be recorded, and it would be somewhat difficult for persons to impersonate ownership of those digital arts. So NFTs and the economy. So the hype around non-fungible tokens still continues, even though it's mainly happening within the crypto bubble. A closer look reveals a huge potential for the real economy. NFT will open up new types of marketplace and digital ecosystems, unlike anything we've seen today. Therefore, it's good to understand the potential and draw possible business conclusions from it. And NFTs are no longer just digital curiosities. They have created a significant impact in the global economy by transforming the way digital assets are bought, sold, and owned. NFTs have opened up new industries and revenue streams and challenges. Their influence can be seen across multiple sectors, from art, music, to gambling, fashion, and real estate. So this helps us to say that in our world today, there are lots of hype around NFTs and ownership of digital art. So if there are lots of hype, that helps us to tell us that there are lots of potentials in it. But for now, they are still first of all based on digital basis and cryptocurrencies. We can't use NFTs for real life assets for now. But if it's a way of showing ownership and it has proven to work in the cryptocurrency sector, we know that subsequent and flowing developments that would come, it can also be used in our day-to-day lives, which should help in the economic growth. So that's our discussions for today from Group 1, talking about emerging technology. So thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you so much, Mr. Godswill, for your presentation. Well done to you and to your team members for putting that together. We'll be going over to Group 2. Please, the group presenter for Group 2, please, you can kindly do well to also share your slides and start your presentation as we. Okay, I can see one of our mentors is on call, but before we head over to him, we'll just have both presentations and then we'll get back to the mentors to get some more feedbacks from them, and then we'll take questions and answers if that's fine by us. So moving on, group presenter for Group 2, please, you can do well to share your slides and start your presentation.
Right. Good afternoon, please. Can I be heard?
Yes, we can hear you. Good afternoon.
Okay. Let me get my slide. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Victor, and I'll be presenting on behalf of my group, Group 2. So we are presenting on the topic, the convergence of AI and emerging technologies. So the topic, the convergence of AI and emerging technologies, I believe is something that it's quite explanatory on the surface of it. And looking at what the topic entails, we would know that or would appreciate the fact that we live in a society where we experience a lot of new technologies that I would say disruptive technologies that tends to change the way that we've lived over the ages, and of course making things a little much more better than it used to be, automating almost all the processes or all aspects and sectors of human life. And we'll see technologies such as smart contracts that are self-executory, and we see technologies that even gives us a more virtual reality than what reality looks like itself. And then we'll get to see machines and AI security systems that kind of protect data and privacy better than it used to be, trying to anticipate cyber threats and hackers, and all these things are emerging technologies that we'll get to see in recent times. And when we look at what convergence means, convergence is basically the combination of two or more technologies, right, to give us a more advanced, better reality, or to ease the way we do things, or the way industries and sectors and human activities operate. And why are we considering what convergence, or the concept of convergence? We'll get to see that the combination of technologies, as emerging technologies as we see, is disruptive, but then in the positive sense of it, although we kind of see issues that arises, but then most basically we see that the convergence of these technologies are quite beneficial, much beneficial to human activities, and it's something that it's even emerging. It hasn't even arrived the way that people kind of anticipate it to arrive in years to come. But then that is the concept. And today we'll be looking at different emerging technologies that are converging, or that are being combined with AI, such as blockchain technologies, augmented reality and virtual reality, like the first speaker spoke. We'll look at cybersecurity systems, and also the integration of these AIs to healthcare and different sectors of human activities that's obviously improving the way these sectors work. So firstly, haven't talked about what convergence is. Basically, we look at emerging technologies. So emerging technologies just describe new technologies that we get to experience in recent time, both existing technologies that are being remodified and improved upon to make the operation of these technologies better, and emerging technologies like we experience. And then when we look at emerging technologies, one of the first that comes in top of the list would obviously be blockchain, because blockchain, when you look at blockchain, we'll kind of look at the decentralization of virtually everything that we do. But then, first of all, we'll kind of look at it from the place of financial technology, how blockchain would bring about decentralization of finance, because the traditional setting that we had before are mostly centralized technologies or centralized platforms, where we get the bankers kind of control almost every aspect of our banking systems. But then decentralized banking or decentralized financial technology kind of gives you more freedom, more control over both your financial activities and your transactions and what have you. And then the financial technology aspect is just more like an insight or oversight of what technology kind of touches on. It extends beyond that, even how we protect our data, because one of the issues that we get to see these days is the fact that different companies, big companies, make use of people's data without authorization, right? Because of the centralized system of these companies, right? But then blockchain is coming in to change the way that these companies handle people's data and what have you, right? And then we look at the transparency of blockchain, and then how the integration of both blockchain and AI will kind of give more transparency and more reliability for people who use or people who use different technologies or different apps or what have you to transact or do their day-to-day business, or even the normal random online messages and stuff that we do, right? So that on that. And then we look at what some of these emerging technologies have come to be. We see emerging technologies like Internet of Things, where we basically have connectivity of different devices as one. That's kind of a global connected network, right? Where you kind of, no matter where you are probably connected to a center network where messages or where information kind of goes to different parts of the body, or different parts of let's say the peripheral devices that are connected to a center body, right? And then we also see virtual reality. And virtual reality, I would like to kind of make reference to what it used to be like when we were younger. I would use instances of let's say more real virtual games than what we have in reality, right? Because back then we used something like Nokia Touch to play, but then now you can go to like a game house and then have like like the virtual reality kind of gives you a real life feeling of what these things look like. And then we have artificial intelligence that's obviously everywhere, disrupting how people kind of even disrupting every aspect of human life, right? Where we use AI for classrooms to do assignments, to, you could just, things that would take you days or months to do, AI can just pop things together, right? Within seconds or minutes, right? And then we have programmative advertisements, where we use technology to help brands and help brands connect to their customers and connect to markets as it is. And then also customer service. Most of the times when you have issues with some of these banks and some of these online vendors, right? Most of the first thing that they give, or most of the first response that they give is usually automated, right? And then it's something very, well, I say very, very beneficial, or very, very helpful, right? I would use the word helpful, because the response that it kind of gives, kind of, at least for the time being, kind of gives a little solution before we have an actual human being come to look into what it is. Sometimes they might even solve your problem before an actual human being will kind of come to, interact with whoever it is to know what the issues are. And then these are emerging technologies that are obviously changing the way that we live, the way that we operate, do business, do our day-to-day activities. And what are the benefits of these emerging technologies that most likely are tilting towards blockchain technology? That's the decentralized artificial intelligence and distributed centralized distributed ledger technology. So decentralized AI combines artificial intelligence with blockchain technology to create systems that are transparent. So we've spoken about transparency. The one thing about blockchain is that you see all the activities that goes on in blockchain just as it is going on, right? If you have, like, let's say, any idea about blockchain, or if you use most of these, let's say, these finance platforms, decentralized finance platforms, like the cryptocurrency finance platforms, right? Most of the market activities that are going on, you are seeing them as they are going on, right? Like, you are seeing it, the same thing that you are seeing is the same thing that every other person, every other place is seeing, right? Something like Bitcoin is just there, right? And then it's open for everybody to see and to appreciate, right? The transparency is just top notch. And then this is one of the benefits of decentralized AI. And that thing is immutability. It's nobody can alter what you have there, right? The way it is there, that's how it will be, right? For at least for now, we've not seen like loopholes in the system where one can change it like on their own, that's solely without any just on their own, I would just say, right? And then it kind of gives you that transparency, and then that trust and reliability in the system, right? And then that once data is stored on the blockchain technology platform, it kind of it's not open, or it cannot be porous, right? It cannot be penetrated, right? It kind of remains there, and that's your data. And then the benefits are quite enormous, right? So when we take these things and
So,
integrate it in other sectors or in the industries, we kind of see that
sorry to cut
when
you
we look,
in.
sorry,
Please, I would like for you to, if it's possible, to speed up your presentation. If that will be possible, we would really, really appreciate.
all right. So when we look at industries like the healthcare industries and the finance industries and other industries, we see that these benefits that artificial intelligence and integration with decentralized systems are bringing are quite needed, right? Because we kind of want to protect people's healthcare information so that they are not open to hacks or open to people who would exploit these informations to their own detriment, or even your financial informations. And these are the benefits that AI has, decentralized AI has. And then we look at the benefits of AI for healthcare. Like I've already said, I've already run through them a little. It kind of protects your data, right? And then once your data as a person, your healthcare data is protected, right? There'll be little fear of anybody at all, whether pharmaceutical companies, whether people that wants to use the data to exploit you, to do that at all, right? Kind of gives you more freedom to do whatever you want to do, and even kind of gives, okay, like what we have here, high quality of patient's life and what have you. And then even increases the accuracy of treatment, because we kind of have countries where, like South Korea, for instance, where they have an AI technology that's blockchain helps to store and store the data of patients, right? And then AI kind of helps to dictate whether from the data of a client or a patient that has been stored on the system, whether they have any disease or any potential health issues, right? That could just be anticipated and, prevented from, happening to the patients. And then these are the benefits that AI has. And then we look at the benefits of artificial intelligence. Like I said, it automates the normal activities that we would have ordinarily be doing on a daily, right? Those repeated activities or tasks, right? It also kind of gives you 24/7 availability. Like I said earlier, when you have issues with some platforms now, whether it's in the middle of the night, you just text the customer care or whatever chatbot that they make available, and then they would respond to you just instantly, even before the human factor kind of comes in to see what is wrong, right? And then it also reduces human error, right? Like the automated tasks or codes or blockchain technology that kind of makes everything transparent. Once it has been written and then it's been texted that this is correct, right? There is no need writing these things over and over again, and then it kind of reduces the probability of someone coming to like write something that has been written and then making a mistake like during the process, right? So these are the benefits of artificial intelligence, and then we look at advantages and disadvantages. Like the advantages also kind of mean the benefit, but then the disadvantages, we kind of have issues of, we have legal and ethical issues that comes up when we look at emerging technologies. We look at smart contracts, who should be liable when these things like kind of fire back or something like that, right? And then we also look at, we've heard people that have argued that AI kind of displaces people of their job. We've even seen lawyers who argue that we shouldn't integrate artificial intelligence into the legal system, right? Because what happens to human lawyers now when we have AIs coming in to do our jobs, right? And then people also argue that it kind of reduces the lack of human judgment and creativity, right? But then all these things are things that, I don't know, maybe probably people that kind of makes people a little taken back or a little skeptical about embracing artificial intelligence technology and what have you. And then, like we've said earlier, we've looked at the convergence of AI and blockchain technology, and then because of time, we wouldn't be diving so much deep into it. But then blockchain technology, it should just be noted that it kind of provides trust and transparency, right? Because it's open. It's something that everyone has access to see how the platform or whatever data that is open for everybody to see what it is. And then it's immutable, right? Nobody can change or rewrite what has been written on blockchain technology, right? And when we merge or combine the AI and blockchain, we kind of have we just kind of see that, like I said before, in the South Korea exercise that I gave, the AI kind of helps to dictate diseases that a patient has from the data that they have stored in blockchain technology, and then these are how these things can merge. And then the AI system and augmented and virtual reality, how they converge, they help us kind of feel the virtual reality as though it is real life. They kind of change text, change images that we would like create with systems, create with AI. They kind of AI kind of makes these images, makes these things look more real, look more appreciable, right? So that's the integrations of AI and virtual reality and augmented reality from the angle that we see. And then we look at cybersecurity systems. Blockchain, the temp-proof feature of blockchain kind of helps to make sure that data stored on blockchain are not open to or not penetrable. That's it's difficult for a hacker to like get into the blockchain technology to hack data or information that has been
Hello, can we all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh, all right. I don't know what happened to our group presenter. I thought it was network issue for my end. So all right, we have already spent quite a lot of time on presentation already, and we will just be moving on from here. Right, we'll be moving on from here. So please, we'll be
Sorry,
giving the space. Hello, Mr. Victor.
I don't know. My network kind of shifted a bit and then I lost out.
Okay, so please, can you just quickly wrap up in the next like 5 minutes, just wrap up your presentation so that we can move on.
All right. But I didn't know where like I left off the call. I don't know where to continue from.
Okay, if I'm not mistaken, you had
AI
finished
and what,
you had finished
cybersecurity.
security systems. Yeah.
All right. So that's all right. I don't know. Well, I'll just continue without sharing my screen. So conclusively, I've kind of gone through almost all that we have here, right? So conclusively, we've seen that the convergence of AI and artificial intelligence kind of has a lot, enormous benefits and enormous aid in the way human functions and then the way industries and economic function, right? And then in conclusion, I would like to reiterate the words of Richard Susskind in Tomorrow's Lawyers. I would believe that greater percentage of us here might be law students or lawyers in equity or even lawyers in practice. So the conclusion of this emergence of AI and emerging technologies, and then it even extends to actual real sectors of human operations and all, is that we are at the brink of a fundamental change. And then the earlier that we embrace these sectors or this emerging technology and artificial intelligence, the better for us, because we can't rule them out, because there are things that are already here to say. Like I said before, there are disruptive technologies that are taking over almost every aspect of human life and human activities, right? And then it is best for us, right, that we embrace this emerging technology and AI, and then see how we can even combine them further to even extend to other aspects that has remained untouched, even down to agriculture. We've seen advanced countries that use AI and artificial intelligence systems to increase their productive strength in agriculture, name it, wide and vast industries, any industries at all that you could name, right? And then these are just what AI, what emerging technologies has been doing and is doing currently, right? So that is just that for this presentation. I thank you all for listening, and thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Victor, for your presentation. We've spent quite a lot of time on presentations, and we want to still be able to achieve to finish within the allotted time that we have set for this class. So I can see Mr. Felix Ologbonyo right in class. Thank you so much, sir, for joining. We're happy to have you in today's session. I was earlier informed that you may not be present, but it's nice to see you in session today. Thank you so much for joining. So Mr. Felix, moving back to our mentors, Mr. Felix, if you can, we would like for you to just kindly give us a little brief, well, based off of what you had prepared ahead of the session, just give us a little brief discourse into, some of your thoughts about the topic for today, and then what you thought about the presentations that you listened to, and then we'll take Mr. Akintude's comments, and then we'll take questions and call it a day.
Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you, and I am tempted to say good morning. I'm actually currently out of town. So good afternoon, everyone, and I want to thank you for the opportunity. I'm sorry I won't be able to switch on my camera. I had to do a lot of multitasking this morning, and my sincere apologies. I was supposed to actually begin with you. So just in the next 15 minutes, I'll try to just make the best use of that quarter of an hour. Now, before I lose my thought, let me just begin by saying thank you to the organizer. It's been a nice time, and it's been quite interesting being with this organization in the last maybe 3 years now. And to the presenters, I think your presentation was actually quite intelligent and nice for the first and the second group. That's a nice work. Keep it up. I will just speak a few things about my view with respect to your presentation, because I think I may not have a lot of time to come back. Now, where the topic I was given, of course, our general topic is AI, ethics, and emerging technologies. So I could see how you dealt with the aspect of augmented and virtual reality, fungible tokens, and all that. So I'm a lawyer. So when it comes to technical issues, maybe I'm still trying to learn and upgrade myself. But when I look at the topic relating to the issue of ethics, I like the way your presentation tried to capture the struggle of technology to catch up with law, or the struggle of law to catch up with technology, and the need for us to look at ethics. So I'll be speaking, introducing technology as an artificial intelligence, especially with respect to emerging technologies. Then I will quickly just want us to look at the status of ethics and see how this can address the legal gap that you will always have with respect to technology, or the need for law to regulate technology. So I won't want to bore you with details with respect to artificial intelligence. We all know that artificial intelligence refers to machine that actually simulate human intelligence, uh, and human thinking, human intelligent process. So what you have here is you have intelligence, then you have artificial. I think before the emergence of artificial intelligence, the main thing being talked about emotional intelligence. Now you talk about issues relating to artificial intelligence. There is cultural intelligence. Cultural intelligence is saying you need to, if you're going to actually work in international or a global stage, you need to understand different cultures and how you have to relate to them, or how you have to simulate, or how you have to handle how they behave. So what artificial intelligence does is to actually learn about you and try to replicate. So when you look at artificial intelligence, broadly, I can divide them into three. And I'm speaking about AI specifically because we are talking about adoption of AI into emerging technology. We've seen it in virtual reality, we've seen it in augmented reality, we've seen it in robotics, we've seen it in nearly every aspect. And so, as I speak to AI, I will be indirectly speaking to all other emerging technologies, and let's see how the role of ethics becomes central. So, when you talk about types of artificial intelligence, I try to group them into three. You talk about artificial intelligence that is narrow or specific. In this instance, we're talking about artificial intelligence systems that are designed or trained to perform specific tasks. And so they will include stuff like voice assistants, like you have your Siri and Alexa. What they do is actually to do voice assistant, to provide voice assistant service or whatever they do, in order to, you don't need to speak, or probably you don't need to do certain things, you just speak to them. They change your music and do all that. You talk about recommendation algorithms, under narrow algorithms, stuff like Netflix, YouTube. So we all go to YouTube. You know, when you listen to one music, YouTube probably suggests to you again something that is similar to it. It's because it's checking your data, and it's already looking at you that, oh, guy, you like pop music. And so because of that, it continues to just suggest pop music to you because it's learning and it's becoming intelligent as you continue to use it. Then you talk about spam filter images. You can go on and on. Now, the main features of this narrow artificial intelligence is that they can perform only tasks that they are programmed to perform. Then they operate under a very limited and predefined conditions because this is what they are designed to do. And most times, such AI system that we have currently fall into this category. If you look at them in robotics, in self-driving cars, all this AI actually programmed to perform specific functions. Now, when I say specific, it doesn't mean one function, but it means that they are not general. Now, you can move on to the second part of my categorization that talks about AI that is general. General in the sense that this kind of artificial intelligence are to perform like human being. So you see, human being is not limited when it comes to actions that it can perform. We all can act in different situations, in different capacities. In fact, most of us do not know how much we can do until we find ourselves in certain circumstances that make us to act quite differently. Some of us are actors, some of us are speakers, but we never speak and we never act in the sense that we do it in at professional level. But when you find yourself in certain place where you are constrained to act in such capacity, you consider you have the innate ability to do that without necessarily being trained to do it. Now, so this is what we're talking about, general artificial intelligence. So in such instance, this kind of artificial intelligence is actually trained to solve problems, plan and learn in any domain. So they have cognitive capacity that is equivalent to human being. Now, before I continue to just say this, because I'm looking at my time also, general artificial intelligence are currently hypothetical in the sense that we cannot really say we have artificial intelligence that is human being currently. And I probably think, and this takes me to the aspect of the concern rate with respect to AI taking people's job. I know this argument is actually quite popular, but I don't believe in it. And I will explain why. There will never be a time when you can get an artificial intelligence system that can perfectly simulate human being. That is in the realm of general artificial intelligence. They can do everything that a human being does. And so as long as you have technology, technology is going to cause changes, but not necessarily making human being redundant. What it means that we have to be more agile, we have to be more nimble, we have to be more to be more dynamic, so that when the technology is changing, as it takes job from some people, it gives job to another people. So most time we do not talk about the aspect of the job, the new opportunities opened by artificial intelligence or technology. We talk about the hood opportunities closed by technology. So if you look at from the Stone Age, technology continues to evolve. And as it evolves, it takes certain things away, it brings new one. When you talk about the Dark Age and people were using stone to get fire, those who were professional in the art of using stone to get fire, lost their job when matches were actually developed. But remember that those who developed matches actually gave job to those who work in the factory. And so it's important we begin to think from this, as in from this angle. And so I can go on, but again, I'm looking at my time. So when we talk about emerging technologies powered by artificial intelligence, we have a lot of them. I can't exhaust them. You talk about robotics and autonomous system. You talk about artificial intelligence in healthcare. Currently, I think I wrote something, if you want to check on my page, maybe last year or early this year, on artificial intelligence scribe. So that is netcare. In netcare, you see, formally you go to doctors sit down and is attending to you, asking you questions and writing things down. The work of a doctor is not to take notes. Doctors are not clerk. Their work is to diagnose and treat you. And so there's an artificial intelligence system developed to take client note. And so as you are speaking, the artificial intelligence is taking notes and it's transcribing it to the doctor. Doctor just move. Of course, we are going to see certain ethical issues relating to this. But what I'm saying is you see it being deployed in healthcare. You see it in smart city and Internet of Things. In smart cities, you see communications of infrastructure as inter-infrastructural communications. You see how if there's smoke somewhere, there's a trigger that can come, link to fire service. Fire service will come without anybody actually calling fire service. You see AI in finance, you see it in generative artificial intelligence, where we talk about ChatGPT, text message, your images, your deepfake. Now, in deepfake, I think I'm not trying to refer you, I'm just, because of time, if you want to check out, I had about four short articles on deepfake and the possibilities, the opportunities, and what is, and the dangers of deepfake. Today, with your deep fake, you really do not need to get somebody to do advert for you as a company. You can sit down before your computers and create advert using deep fake videos. And so I don't need to go and get one star who will charge me millions of naira or dollar in order to do advert. I can do deep fake videos. I can do all manner of stuff with deep fake technology. But again, I will speak to the aspect of ethical issues. For example, as I move to ethical issues, now let me stop at the point of asking, just listing these examples. So why ethics? Why do we talk about ethics in terms of artificial intelligence, especially when it comes to its adoption in emerging technology? Now, somebody spoke about the failure or the inability of law to catch up with technology. Now, historically, technologies outpace law because law is always reactive to technology. When the problem comes or the law tries to checkmate the problem, and most times the law cannot catch up because as we speak now, I am sure that new technologies are being developed. And when you have the law, and most times, especially in Africa, and again, unfortunately, our country, most of our legislators don't even know what we're talking about now. And so how do they make law to address them? And so the only option we now have is to fall back to ethics. Now, when we talk about ethics, what is ethics? Ethics, usually you see it as moral code or unenforceable regulations that has to deal with how things ought to be done, usually without punishment attached to it. And so in artificial intelligence, AI, or let me say, ethics becomes important when you look at aspects of AI, how it impacts life and decision, issue of bias, discrimination, inequality, the need for fairness, accountability, and transparency. And AI can actually reinforce societal power and imbalances. Now, currently, you see, when you talk about societal power and imbalances, for example, okay, I think about 2 months ago, I was outside the country and I needed to make a call. And of course, there was a robot that has to answer the call. And I was speaking to the robot, and the robot is saying, I don't understand what you're saying. Now, the problem here is that the robot has actually been trained to understand accent of the country. And my accent is different. And I was correct, I was saying this, but the robot does not understand. And each time the robot actually ends the call. And I was helpless because there's no how you will call. A robot to be the first that will pick the call. And also now direct you to a human being when there's a need, when it cannot answer your question. And so I was helpless because the AI that was built into probably answering the call was not built with my accent. Does not actually think a black man will come and pick this, or somebody with deep Nigerian accent like me will come and speak. And so I was blocked out, even though my service, I was being paid, I was paying for the service. And so you're going to have situations where, for example, you have AI that actually goes into employment that's been deployed by HR. When you use certain words or you don't have certain background, it just shuts you out. And you see people applying for job, they are never being called for interview, not because they don't have the qualification, but the program has actually been set up in such a way that it discriminates and takes out your information and will never allow you to get a human being. So you're not even talking to a human being. So you talk about issue of risk or bias, discrimination, inequality. You talk about aspect of deepfake, people actually using pictures and video of stars who should have been paid for their what do you call it, for their intellectual property, and it's using it in order to actually mimic them. And again, they are not contacted. So ethics comes to play in this aspect to deal with all this issue of fairness, accountability, privacy issue, safety and security. This is where ethics comes in, because as we continue to look at this, law will never catch up with technology. What law can do is to preempt. And I was thinking about this topic. I began to see the possibility of, are we putting up another article on the Colin Green dilemma? I don't know how many of us knows about the Colin Green dilemma. You can Google it and read more about it. What the guy is saying is that there's a problem for regulators of technology in the sense that those who regulate technology, we have a problem because they don't know when technology is coming, and so they can't make law to preempt technology. But when technology actually arrives, it's already too late for them to regulate, because the harm has been done. And so in such circumstance, the law is actually sandwiched between two problems: the problem of being too fast and the problem of being too late. And so I feel that ethics is actually available to fill this gap, because ethics is general, ethics is universal, ethics is actually innate in every human being. And so we should be looking at the possibility of a design system that incorporates ethical consideration into emerging technology to address the issue of regulations and all other ethical problems that I've discussed. So I said I was going to close by 1:45 because I need to jump on another thing. Sincerely, I want to apologize. This is a conversation I can have in the next 5 hours. Quite interesting and extremely educative. I hope that in no long time from now, I will have opportunity to get on this call for us to have a more productive conversation. Once again, I want to thank all of you. I don't know if I'll be able to take questions in the next 1 or 2 minutes. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Felix, for your thoughts and for your comments on the presentation. We really appreciate the detailed information you shared in this very, very short time. So because Mr. Felix is leaving the call, if we have, even if it's a question for Mr. Felix that we want him to answer, please, we can go ahead and throw that question to him for him to address it before he goes. Is there any question for Mr. Felix before he goes? Do we have any person with a question? Please, if you have a question, you can indicate by raise of hand. All right, Mr. Emmanuel, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Felix, and the first speaker that introduced us to the knowledge of AI and how AI works. So my question is more a kind of, will I say, contribution by way of like questions. So I just wanted to like get some little clarification as regards something that Mr. Felix mentioned. So talking about ethics in AI and how, okay, he gave the example of how when he wanted to make a call, the robotics could not speak his voice because probably they did not impute the voice of a black man and all that. So my area of clarification is that, or will I say the little insight I got from there, which I may want to make contribution to, is that I feel is more of representation than ethics when it comes to AI not being able to pick certain data or certain persons. For example, now maybe I go to I go to Germany and I'm trying to make a call. and probably I don't have a German accent. I feel if there is no black person that is on the team that will be able to, even the builders or the developers of the AI system, some of them don't really know the black accent except they relate with a black person and try to get a black person on board. So I feel if we can get more representation as regards this development of AI, and we tend, especially the black race or the African people, we tend to be more involved, more enlightened, and our government also supports and partner with the global AI development. I feel that when it comes to AI systems trying to um, recognize certain races or certain voices and or not, to be able to recognize the black voice or the black race because of there's a representation there. So I feel that it may not be the fault of the developers because probably they never had the knowledge or an idea that or they never had came in touch or in contact with such assets, using your example as a case study. So my recommendation is that in as much as ethics is there, I feel that if we can learn more and also be involved, the African race and like the African continent can also be involved in the development of AI, because when you see startups, most of all these AI startups, they are mostly white people that do it. So when they do it according to the culture they've learned, and then they design the system according to the culture, you may not really blame them because there are little to no black person involved in the AI development. But with this kind of course and training that is exposing us to the knowledge of AI, I believe that if AI systems like ChatGPT, we can have our own version, African version of ChatGPT that is not just for Africa, but is globally recognized and recognizes every race and culture. So it's more of representation because most in this part of the world, we are not really represented in the AI development and technological race. Is most of all these AI systems are coming from the West, especially the United States, and most of the people in the United States are developing them are the white people. So when we may not so much blame them when they are trying to develop a system according to the culture they've learned. What we may advocate for more is for fair representation of all persons so that everybody can be involved. And when everyone is involved, every race, every culture, every identity will be included. So that's my 2 cents on the issue. Thank you very much. I do hope that you understood my point. Thank you so much.
All right,
Okay, so
thank
thank you
you.
so much. I'm already on the we, but I think it's important if you can hear me. I just want to react to that. That was a brilliant contribution, and I sincerely appreciate. I can see that you're speaking from the perspective of development of technology, which is where we are lagging behind. We don't have the ecosystem that actually helps us to develop technology. For example, if you see, you can see it in JIIPCC, see all manner of stuff. And what you see is that, of course, human being actually label all this stuff. And it will always reflect where it comes from. But much as I agree with you, this does not take away the ethical consideration. Remember, I'm speaking from the aspect of ethics. Now, the question is, when a car is being developed, well, currently we make cars in Nigeria, but of course the rate of production is not still enough for us. So when Mercedes is making its car, I'm sure Mercedes is made in Germany, but it's designed in such a way that it can be used all over the world. So imagine in such a way, what I'm discussing here, what I'm saying is, if you look at it from the perspective I'm looking at it, now you have a service that you pay for. When they want to collect fee for that service, they don't know they don't care whether you're black, you're pink, you're yellow, you're red. So the service actually extended to everyone. But when it comes to you taking the benefits of the service, you can't take the benefit because you are not white. You know, it has already raised ethical issue. Like, I agree with you with respect to the fact that we need to get into these things and get involved. But it's ethically wrong for an organization to provide a service that is global in nature, as in, okay, that appears to be global in nature, but when it comes to taking advantage of that service, it's limited to a particular race. So it strongly raises issue of discrimination, inherent higher discrimination against human being. In every standard, it is unethical. And so that is the aspect I'm talking about. So if you look at it quite well, you will see that if you're in Nigeria now and you use a Google map, the accent with which the Google map was speaking to you, you'll be Nigerian. I think probably Google map has probably developed maybe Pidgin or something like that, if I remember. And if you come to the US, the accent will be different. So what Google has done in that regard is to ensure that it's being fair to everybody who uses the app. Because I will most likely not understand, or I may not understand what the other accent is saying. So this is the aspect I'm talking about when it comes to ethical consideration. But again, when it comes to the aspect of being involved in technological innovations, I strongly agree with you 100%. But that does not excuse us that even if we develop any innovation in Nigeria, that it has to be limited to Nigeria. Otherwise, you are limiting the scope of your innovation. If other people in other countries or in other regions of the world cannot use it because they feel they are being discriminated against by the application of that technology. And so it's important as Africa gets involved in development, we also think quite broadly as to the applicability of our innovations to other people outside the continent. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. It's well noted, sir. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Felix, for your time and also your contribution. Well done, and thank you to Mr. Emmanuel for your question as well. So we will be going back to Mr. Akintunde, right, for his comments on the presentation, as well as any other little contribution he would like to ask. And then I can see one person is raising their hands. We'll take questions after Mr. Akintunde is done. Mr. Akintunde, back over to you, sir. Mr. Akintunde, are you with
Yeah,
us?
hello. Yes. Yeah, good
Yes.
afternoon. Yeah, so with you, and let me just go to my notes for the presentation. I'll start from group two. I was making notes while guys were presenting. So well done presentations. I don't really just have a little bit of context to add some things you guys said. So what I think one of the things that piqued my interest in group two was when you talked about AI for healthcare. I know you were already rushing, so you couldn't really go into details about that. So like when you mentioned about AI being used for healthcare, so there's a practical example. Like say for instance now, we talk about AI for diagnosis. It's been found that machine learning models do a lot more better at detecting Parkinson's disease compared to like traditional methods because there are certain subtleties in scans that cannot be detected by human eyes, but models do far better at detecting these things. Um, in Rwanda, there was something that happened. There was a case study that happened some months back using AI to detect tuberculosis. So what they did was that they used satellite imagery of a particular area in Kigali, Rwanda. Took satellite imagery of that place, scanned it using computer vision to and have like, a sample of over like 10, think of whether like over like I think more than I can't remember the exact figure right now, but like let's say more than 10,000 people were screened based on that what's the word based on that sample they collected with satellite imagery. And around 20 people were found who had tuberculosis. Now these were people who probably would have never gone to a hospital by themselves to get checked or traditional or probably not even know that they had the TB. But using AI, computer vision, and satellite imagery, be able to detect that this person has tuberculosis. So you can imagine if someone to take this kind of sense to like a crowded place like Lagos, where let's say somewhere busy at mile 12, Oshodi or Balen, they take an image of the people there, scan it in computer CV, using their computer vision, and then being able to detect the likely health conditions of the people in that place. So this is the real potential of AI for healthcare. Someone else also talked about what's the word? Using blockchain to protect the data that is used to train AI models. And that's quite interesting because it goes back to the issue of data poisoning in AI, where it's possible that someone is able to breach access to an AI system and input undesirable elements to the underlying data so that it then begins to either give out unreliable or untrustworthy outputs. So let's say, for instance, now an AI bot or an AI chatbot is trained to support in a customer service role or any user-facing role. And if someone gains access to it and then is able to breach it, to then impute data that includes curse words or racist terms and all of that. And because of that, next time maybe you use it yesterday, it was working fine. Then you go back to it today, and then it's then abusing you. Are like, what's going on here? Because someone was able to poison the underlying data. So going back to your blockchain analogy, that if we're able to use blockchain systems to help us to track, because like you said, it's immutable. So any change to it, for you to even change data in the blockchain, then you need at least 51% access to it at the very least. So and you need a lot of computing power to do that. So using blockchain in that sense can help to mitigate, or at least, yes, to a strong degree, mitigate the possibility of AI systems being breached for poisoning attacks. And that's one thing that, at least in practice, you could recommend that as a possible technical organizational measure under Nigeria's data protection laws as a means of ensuring that your AI systems, where you are deploying them, to a large degree secure. So for group one, yes, there you talked about. I think the same thing also might also extend to group one. So what you talked about is the fact where you mentioned cybersecurity risks and the AI liability. So it still goes back to the issue of a technical and organizational measures, which I keep using that term because this is what the law calls the technical and organizational measures under Nigeria's guide. That's the General Application and Implementation Directive, a subsidiary rule to the data protection law, which puts forward you have put together certain measures to ensure that AI systems are secure, and also kind of mandates them using AI for data processing. So, but all in all, I find that those presentations were quite well researched, and I feel like maybe you guys, I don't know, maybe like, I feel like maybe you should try to give mentees a bit more than 10 minutes so they are not so constrained. And because I feel like there was a lot more detail that they could have gone into to probably cover the topics. But all in all, it was a good presentation. If there are any questions, I'll take them now.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Akintunde. So please, we'll be taking questions right about now. I saw someone raising their hands. If you can, please, you can go ahead and ask your question. If you have a question for Mr. Akintunde in class today, please, you can go ahead, raise your hands, indicate you can send your questions to the chat box. We will do well to read your questions out to the mentor, and I'm sure he'll be very, very much willing to help answer them. Do we have any persons with questions in class? Do we have questions? Do we have questions? Okay. So nobody has any questions? All right. In the absence of any questions so far, we would like to kindly ask for you to kindly turn on your videos for those who are present and who can do that. Please turn on your videos so that we can take a quick screenshot of class while we draw this particular session to a close. All right. Thank you, everyone. All right, we are done with that. We are done with the pictures. Thank you so much for thank you so much for thank you so much for complying with that. We have officially come to the end of our first class. All right. We're able to stay within time, even though we shot by a little bit. But it's not still nothing to worry about. Please do well to share what you have learned in class. The attendance list will be sent to your so that you can fill that in to show that you were in class today. Do well to tag our mentors that were in session. We had Mr. Felix Ologbonyo and we had Mr. Okay, I can see someone raising their hands. Do you have a question, Pearl? Pearl, do you have a question? I can see you raising your hand.
Yes, sir. I have a question. Sorry, I had a network glitch that time. So,
Okay.
my question is, who bears the liability for harm or damage done by an AI-driven system or robots in healthcare and manufacturing sectors with regards to faulty products or product liability?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your question. I think Mr. Akintunde
Okay.
talked about this in his presentation, but if Mr. Akintunde, if you still like to share more light in this, yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, this is an evolving discussion, but there are some rules that give an indication of how they want to manage this. One of them is the WHO AI Ethics Guidance 2021. So it did not take a position on it, but it kind of gave a recommendation where it recommended that hospitals should have a responsibility to ensure that the AI systems that they use are, what's the word now? Would I say fit for purpose? And the argument they gave in that WHO document was that currently, if hospitals want to hire anybody, doctors, nurses, they have to ensure that the credentials of those doctors are original, they are real. So, and those doctors that they hire then go on to like take care of patients and every of patients. So in the same vein, if you are going to deploy an AI system that is going to augment or support the work of these hospital, support the work of doctors or nurses, or to improve the well-being of patients, hospitals should have a responsibility to ensure that those tools that they use are fit for purpose. So in that context, if they have responsibility to, it means that where those systems fail, they will be liable because you should have checked. That's in line with that. But like I said, it's still a recommendation. It's not like a firm rule. The issue I have with that is that if you say hospitals should be responsible, the same AI tool is going to be used by hundreds of hospitals, tertiary hospitals, primary healthcare centers. So if you put that burden on every single one of them, not every hospital has the capacity to test. The capacity of a general hospital is way higher than that of a primary healthcare center in your local governments. They don't have the same personnel or capacity, all of that. So it's better that that responsibility to ensure that AI systems that are used in healthcare context is placed with a central board. That's why I made reference to the NAFDAC medical device regulations. So it's not actively enforced because I mean, just if some weeks ago we had to advise a client who wants to deploy an AI medical device in Nigeria, and it's not an actively enforced regulation. So ideally, if NAFDAC, if anybody wants to bring an AI medical tool to Nigeria, and you go to NAFDAC and NAFDAC registers the way they register every other thing that we use in Nigeria. So at least if you're a hospital and you want to then procure that tool to use, based on okay, this is our NAFDAC certification. Okay, that means if NAFDAC has certified you, then you are fit for use within any Nigerian hospital. So those are ways that at least at the global level, WHO is recommending that hospitals should do that. But if we want to bring that to Nigeria in the local context, it's a lot more better that that responsibility of ensuring that ASCs are fit for purpose falls largely on the Ministry of Health / NAFDAC. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, sir. But I wanted to actually know, is it the developer that actually bears the, would I say, the problem, or does the developer have a liability there too?
Okay, well, responsibility might lie on the developer. I feel like this might be what's the word now? This will be on a context, on a case-by-case basis. So if the error because in most cases, the developer of the AI system, if you're talking about the person who develops it, was working for a company. Okay, so let's say, for instance, now, there were some people who sat down to write the code for JIIPCC, but they are employees of OpenAI. So if harm is okay, if harm is someone is harmed by, like, I think some of you might have heard the news of someone who, I think a lady who took her life after messages that received from ChatGPT and all of that. The the person being sued there in that case is not the developers, it is the company OpenAI. So in this kind of scenario where it might be the company will then be the one that is sued, and then you can maybe add as parties to the case, then add the developers. But then they said, okay, yes, everything that all our work output for our contracts belongs to OpenAI. We don't have rights over it in that sense. So if we don't have rights over it, then that means the liability from its harm cannot come to us because in our contracts, all our work output belongs to the company. Our work output in this instance being this particular AI tool that caused harm to this person. So in that context, the liability or who should be held liable it may not really be the developer, but it might be the person who commissions the developing, that is the company or the corporate entity behind the AI system in question. So whether it's OpenAI, whether it's Anthropic, whether it is any company that is behind that tool. Does that answer the question?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
All right, thank you so much, Pearl, for your question. Faith, I can see Faith raising her hand. Please, you can go ahead, unmute and ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Yes, please go ahead
Good
with your
afternoon,
question.
everyone. Sorry, I didn't ask a question on time. I was a bit busy. My question is under that IP, under that part where I said legal and stuff on IP. Now, I'm asking this question based on the fact that I've discovered that some persons, they generate documents or information or posts with AI. So my question now is, who owns copyright to those AI-generated information? That's one. Then my second question is, in a situation where information or data were compiled or derived from a particular company, and they were now used to train this AI without the consent of that company, can the company sue the developers for using their information or their data without consent? So that's the question, sir. I don't know if it's understood.
Okay, yeah. So can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I muted myself again. Okay, yeah. So for your question, so the first one, you're asking about if someone can, what's the word? Sorry,
AI-generated documents.
AI-generated documents. Yes.
Who owns copyright to documents?
Okay, so who owns copyright to AI-generated documents? This is this will depend actually in practice on what the copyright laws per jurisdiction say. I say so because it varies from place to place and it's still also evolving. For instance, now, and it depends on how the jurisdiction defines human input or human involvement. In Nigeria now, our Copyright Act and the US Copyright Act, because we have Nigeria and US copyright laws have like very similar positions on this. If it is AI generated, there's no copyright to it. And one of the most popular examples of this is there's a comic book that a lady developed in the USA and she registered it for copyright. So what she did was that if you are familiar with comic books, you know that you always have pictures and then the characters are like what they are saying is like is written in the body of the comic. You know how comic books look like. So the words were her words. She wrote them down. But the images in the comic book, she used generative AI to develop them. And when she submitted this work to the US Copyright Office for registration, they registered her work and to give her copyright advice. It was then later that somehow, I don't know, they discovered that this work that was registered with us, the images were developed using generative AI, but what do they call it? The words were written. So they then rescinded their decision, rescinded the copyright that they gave her, and then gave her another copyright again, but only over the words. So it's a bit clumsy, sort of, because it's like a comic book is a composite work. So it giving copyright only over the words because they were her work, and then saying the images in the same comic book are not protected. Like I kind of disagree with the position, but that is the jurisdiction it's how the law in that jurisdiction says it. That's how you implement it. In a place like China now, it's a bit different because I know that they have like a recent resolution they put out that Jeremy provides that for degrees of involvement. So if, for instance, now use an AI generated, you develop an image or a text with AI, but then you substantially make improvements to it. You substantially redraft it. You substantially, what's the word now? You make certain improvements on it. Then that work can still register, can still be copyright protected. But if you just copy and paste, you generate the word, the document, the image, and you just put it out there, no protection for you. So China is a bit more flexible in the sense that it will give you protection if you still make some changes, some edits, at least prove that okay, there was human involvement, there was human creativity applies to this thing before you put the final work. So where copyright lies, you will have to check what the copyright laws in that jurisdiction say for you to like have a position. But most countries of the world, as of now, do not give AI copyright protection. That is for them. But most, but to really, but it's always say that okay, what's the jurisdiction in question? What does it say? Because even UK law is surprisingly more advanced than most law because UK copyright law actually gives some degree of protection to computer generated works, which the way the law it's this is you copyright law is from like I think from the 90s, so this is even before AI. So they did not envisage AI generated works when they defined computer generated work that way, but it then ended up giving that kind of protection. But what it does is that normally copyright is life plus 70, but computer generated works under the UK law, I think is whether it's just 50 years or something. So it gives a degree of protection, but just not as high as human generated works. That's for the UK position. And for the second question, you're asking if you can sue. Yes, you can, and it's already happening. I gave the example when I was speaking about New York Times suing OpenAI for training their models on their news articles, and many other jurisdictions are also doing the same thing, suing them for suing OpenAI or other companies for training their models using their data, using their information without their consent. And they are either seeking settlement or seeking acknowledgements. And your tools must acknowledge that this information was sourced from NYT or sourced from any other source. So it is still, like I said, it's still an evolving matter. And I strongly feel that the law will likely be on the side of these companies, because the fact is that LLMs are the new face of search. Before, if you wanted to search information, you are going to Google, and then Google will always give you the source, okay, give you a number of links where you then go, you have to go to the original source to go and read it yourself. So you're going to them. But now that you can just type it into ChatGPT, type it into Gemini, and to give you an answer, you can literally do your entire research within that chat interface with ChatGPT and not go to any other websites. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can. It's very possible to do that. So if you are doing that, you are denying these people that source of revenue of people going to their web pages to read their information. So they are suffering loss, while ChatGPT is completely gaining from that. So in the economic incentive, I feel the strong arguments that court will consider central, okay, yes, if these guys are going to lose business because ChatGPT is being used to replace search that would have gotten them traffic, then it would make sense that, you know what, they deserve some form of royalty payments. That if you're going to train their models, you either some kind of royalty payments or some kind of licensing arrangement that where for training our chatbots on, let's say, 1 million articles, we'll pay you this. So I feel like ultimately, once it's not settled, but I strongly feel that the courts are going to come on the side of the companies who put out information that LLMs are trained on. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, and thank you so much. I appreciate it, sir. It does.
Welcome.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Faith, for your question. And special thank you to Mr. Akintunde for helping us run through those questions and giving proper insight into the discussion for today. We really sincerely do appreciate all your efforts and the time spent in also preparing your presentation ahead of this class. Thank you so much, sir, for your time and your shared knowledge. Please, like I was saying before we had more questions, please do not forget to fill in your attendance and do not forget to share what you have learned on your different social media platforms, right? We'll be sharing the links to that within your group. So please do well to pay attention to it. Please do not forget, if you are making your post, please do not forget to tag Mr. Akintunde and also Mr. Felix, right? So that you can also get to let them know that you learned from them and you are trying to share what you also received from them within that line. Thank you once again, everyone, for making it to class today. Thank you for making it to class today. Please do well to follow through with the assignments and the tasks that will be sent to the group very soon, and see you in class next week. Thank you.
Please, can we get their LinkedIn handles?
Their profiles will be sent to the group so that you can search for them on LinkedIn and you can connect with them.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, no problem.